I'm going to tell you a quick story. I have a Pope story, and then I'll get on with the rest of the video. I was walking on 78th Street between 5th Avenue and Madison Avenue in Manhattan one day, a few years ago. I was with a friend of mine, and this gigantic limo was driving by and was stuck in traffic on the side street on 78th Street. Did I just say I was on 78th Street between 5th and Madison? 78th. And big limo stuck, and it was a hot day, like really, really hot, and they rolled the windows down. And so I looked in, and who do I see but the Pope? And I don't even know why I did this or what possessed me to, react in this way or how these words came out of my mouth. But I just looked in and I screamed, "Yo, Pope!" And he looked right out the window, stuck his head out, and gave me the thumbs up sign. And I just think that's like one of the greatest stories about the Pope that I've ever heard. And I don't really know anything about the Pope, but I've always thought that was pretty cool. And when I tell people that story, they love it. So that's pretty cool. I wanted to talk about, obviously I'm not making as many of these YouTube videos lately. And it's because I'm in the middle of this bigger project that's taking a lot of my time and kind of overwhelming me right now because my script is changing. It's weird. When I first started the script, the name of the script was called Disposable. And it was about how, theater is like this disposable art form that, you create this work and you spend years developing it and you finally get it up on its feet, and then you perform it somewhere, and then you perform it maybe for years in different theater spaces all over the world, maybe all over the country, all over your state, whatever. And then it's gone, it's theater. It's not even documented. I mean, maybe you've had it recorded once, but the thing about theater is that it's different every night. Like every single performance is unique, even though it's the same words, it's the same script, same lighting design, it's the same set. It's completely different every night. The energy is different. It depends on the audience. It depends on the performer, especially solo theater. It's like energy has a lot to do with the way that film is being presented on that particular night or day if it's a matinee. And so I looked at that as kind of like a metaphor for life too, because I was kind of reflecting upon all of the years that I put into theater and how I've always been the kind of person who was kind of afraid that I would be forgotten, that, I was adopted, I was fostered, I have all this weird baby trauma, from when I was a little baby. And I have to admit that, I've always wanted to be like unforgettable, which sounds pretentious and weird, but maybe that's why I became a performer, performing artist. And, I don't act like that in my personal life. I don't think, I hope not. But I have it in my body, and I just thought it was interesting that, of all of the creative endeavors that I could have chosen, I wound up in the theater, and the theater is the place that made me feel like I was where I belonged, like I was born to do this, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And now I'm doing filmmaking, and that was because of the pandemic. But anyway, then I started working, I was working on this screenplay, developing this film, and one day I looked at my theatrical script from the play, The Red Plaid Suitcase, that I was supposed to open on June 12th of 2020, which was dead in the middle of the pandemic, and so obviously it got shut down. And I was so incredibly disappointed. This is all well documented in many of my videos, but pretty recently I went back and I decided to look at that script again. I kind of got pushed to do that, and it just moved me so deeply. Like I had forgotten a lot of it, and I made a movie based on it, but I had left out a lot of stuff that's in the theatrical script. And so I said, I have to do this. I have to do something with it, And so all of a sudden, my screenplay was changing. And I decided to go back to The Red Plaid Suitcase because it was like the greatest play I had ever written that nobody's ever going to see. Because it got canceled. It didn't get postponed, it just got canceled. So it started changing, and started to dive into the red plaid suitcase, and I created this whole other story about it. I made a movie about making a movie about developing a play. So I was kind of getting to work on both at the same time. And as I've been writing, I'm kind of going back to the disposable thing, but along with all this other stuff, because the film is also about finding the courage. Oh my God, the train's about to come and it's going to interrupt us. So I'm going to cut this off real quick and I'll start again when the train passes. Anyway, there goes the train. Actually, trains went in both directions, so we should be good now for a little while. Let me make sure I'm recording audio. I am. So, yeah, you know, like I just thought, it's interesting that I chose theater, the most disposable art form that there is, because it's gone forever. And I went, you know, going back to my script. So, is the train coming again? Huh. Let me see. Yeah, so my script, you know, it went back to disposable from the red plaid suitcase, and somewhere in between, because I realized that, you know, the fact that I chose that is kind of a really cool metaphor for everything in life. Like, what is not disposable? You know, when you really think about it, everything is completely disposable, right? I mean, everything is temporary. You know, even the things that we commit to for life, you know, even if you get married and you stay together for 50 years, or even if you stay connected to your family forever, it's temporary. It's a fleeting speck of sand in the ocean of time, you know, like it just happens quickly and then it's gone. And I was thinking about being an artist and documenting things with a camera, you know, and I was like, you know, I don't know, it just occurred to me that maybe we're so obsessed with gear because it's something tangible to hold on to. Like we're documenting things that are fleeting and we're stopping them in time. You know, like we film something, whether it be a documentary or a narrative film or whatever, of somebody's wedding, and it's something that happened on that particular day, you know, in that moment in the span of a lifetime, and we're stopping it for a moment and documenting it, but it's really gone. It's really gone. And I think it's really interesting that this camera, this thing that we can hold on to, this tangible piece of equipment, this gear, is a thing that allows us to keep things and reflect upon them and go back and look at them and, you know, kind of prove that they happened, you know? Like, that really did occur. Whether it was a story in your head that you created, a fictional tale, or a documentary, we have this incredible opportunity to make something that will live for as long as the medium exists. You know, for as long as the internet exists, it'll be open to the public, but as long as computers and as long as you have hard drives and monitors and things like that, you have a document, you have proof, you know, you have an affirmation that what you thought in that moment actually happened. And the way that you expressed yourself is what remains for as long as you can access the technology. I mean, if you're a painter, it's even more permanent in a way, because you can draw on a wall. I mean, we're finding like hieroglyphics all the time. We're finding fossils. We're finding art from the Cro-Magnon times, or, you know, like, it's just weird when you think about it, that humanity always felt the need to document things. We created language, you know, but we created art. And I personally think that's why people are obsessed with gear. I think that's why people are constantly thinking about cameras and stuff like that, and I think it's unconscious. Like, I don't think they realize that they're grabbing onto something that is enabling them to keep the day their child was born, or somebody's wedding, or a story that they came up with in their head, or a documentary, like an important moment that's happening out on the street, some kind of protest, or, you know, Yankees winning a World Series, or the Cubs finally winning the World Series after all these years, the Red Sox. Like, you're able to document stuff, even if it's just on your phone. People are always looking for a better camera, a better way to document, a easier way to do it, a faster way to do it, a more convenient way, a more powerful way to get exactly what you want, get the colors right, get the the dynamics right, get the definition right. You want to zoom into 100 million% and see how sharp it is because why? Because you want it documented well. You want this moment to live forever. And so I think that's why people are interested when a new camera comes out, like the S1R Mark II. Everybody's waiting for the S1H Mark II. Sony supposedly is coming up with a new camera that's going to, or 2 new cameras that they just registered, and Panasonic is coming in with a camera that supposedly is going after the FX3. Like, who cares about all this shit? It doesn't really matter. As long as you have a camera that works, you can do the same thing. But I personally think people have an anxiety about it, where they want better equipment. They want it to be, more able to help them express exactly what they're thinking. That's why autofocus exists. You have less chance of losing the shot, right? You want more dynamic range because you don't want to have to worry that, if you miss the exposure, you screwed up the shot. That's why people shoot in RAW, because it's all there. You just got to know what you're doing in post-production. That's why post-production just continues to elevate, because you can just shoot anything and then you can go into post and it's there. You just have to know how to get it. We're creating like these documenting machines that have no flaws. And personally, I'm somebody who enjoys the process. Like, I like manually focusing. I feel like I'm more involved in the scene. I like the process, the day-to-day of filmmaking. I like solving problems. I like trying to figure things out. But I absolutely understand people who don't want to deal with that at all. They just want to remember what happened in this moment. That's really what it's about. That's why, for me, I don't care what camera you're talking about. I want the best possible image quality. That's really the most important thing for me, because even if a camera has all the technology, even if it has great autofocus, even if it has all the things, I don't have to use them. I can still turn a dial to M and shoot in manual mode and do everything myself. I can still use vintage lenses. I can still use anamorphic lenses. I don't have to use autofocus. I don't have to go auto ISO or, I don't have to do that. I can choose it myself, so I can get the process that I'm looking for. But I understand people who don't care about that. They just want to get the story. And of course, I agree, story is the most important thing. Absolutely. Like, nothing compares to that. So I get it, I get it why if you have a GH5, you're interested in a GH7, because it'll take away some of the possibilities of screwing it up. It'll make it easier for you, and that doesn't make you less of a filmmaker, doesn't make you less of a storyteller. It just makes it your style, the way you do things, I don't judge anybody for not wanting to learn autofocus. I think if you want to be a professional DP, you probably should learn as much as you possibly can, because you might be asked to do that. You never know what camera somebody's going to hand you. But, for most people, I think, however you choose to go, I think we all have the same goal. The goal is to capture the moment, to make memories, to document life, so that people who come after us can look back and go, wow. How cool is it to look at old Charlie Chaplin films, or old documentaries of New York or Texas or California, like when we weren't alive, back in the day when they didn't have some of the things that we have, where they had to work a little bit harder to live from day to day. I think that's so cool for everybody to experience that. And so we're kind of like the gatekeepers of this time, and creating memories for people in the future, for the children of this generation and their children and their children's children and so on and so on, and it just continues with film. Then those children and those grandchildren, they become filmmakers or painters or writers or musicians or theater artists, and they do the same thing, so that it just continues. I think right now, things like people making art about climate change, about the political things that are going on, it's really important, because if we survive, if we survive, it's going to be amazing that people are going to be able to look back. That's why it really hurts me, and I hate that seems like a lot of people in power right now are trying to eliminate a lot of history because they think like, you know, they don't want people to watch that because they feel like it, I don't know, worries kids or hurts people's feelings or whatever their reasons are. But I think it's a grave injustice to eliminate any history. Any history whatsoever should be known, should be seen, because of exactly what I'm talking about. People want to know what happened before them. You know, also we could help people not make the same mistakes that we make. I think that's what filmmaking, music, theater, that's what it's all about. To tell people what was happening, you know, in the events of the day, the way people were feeling, how people were navigating through the troubles and the challenges and the, you know, the hard times that we all experience from time to time. And I just think it's incredible. So I understand wanting to have the best camera, the highest technology, the best autofocus, the best dynamic range, like all of that, the best ergonomics, you know, the best weather sealing, unlimited recording. Like, I guess the only flaws that I see with my camera, a Panasonic S5, is I don't have unlimited recording. That kind of bothers me sometimes because I have been cut off in the middle of stuff many times. But otherwise, I feel like I have pretty much everything I need in this camera because the image quality is great and I'm not interested in autofocus. But I do totally understand somebody who has a Sony FX30 or a Panasonic S5 2X or something like that thinking I'm crazy to have what I have. Why I would even want it, you know, when their camera makes things so much easier for them. I get it, you know, and I don't argue with that. They're right, you know, but I'm right too. You know what I mean? We're all right. We're all doing the same thing. We're all trying to stop time for a moment, whether it be a photographer for 1 second or for not less than a second, just stop time, or a filmmaker for 2 hours or 2.5 hours and, you know, creating a world that maybe lasts hundreds of years and squeeze it into 2 hours. I have a play and a film, Brooklyn Quartet, that spans 20 years, but it's 2.5 hours long. So we squeeze 20 years into that. That's a remarkable opportunity for me to be able to do that. And I think a great experience for people who, you know, watch it to be able to receive 20 years. To see people who start at 15 years old and wind up at 35. And I think it's relatable. And I think that's what all art is. It's relatable to somebody somewhere. And so I get it. I get the technology need. I get the want. It's all a matter of how you want to stop time. It's all a matter of how you want to, you know, get to your final expression, you know, what you want to deliver to people. And what kind of process you want, you know, because I think it works, it's like a full circle. It's for people, and that's 180 degrees, and then 180 more, it comes back to you. Like for me, the process is very important to me. It's the reason I wake up every day. It's why I'm alive, because I enjoy the process of making art, solving problems, working hard, having to memorize stuff, having to figure out shot lists, having to write a script, like all the arduous stuff. I love, I enjoy it. But other people just want to get to the end. You know, Dorothy Parker, great writer, said that she loved having written, but she hates writing. I can understand that. She just wants to finish the book. She's got an idea in her head, and she just wants it done so she could sell it, share it with people. You know, me, I like to get there. I believe in taking time. You know, I'm more patient. So I get it. If you want a great camera, if you want the S1R Mark II, if you want the new Panasonic camera that's going to come out, if you enjoy the new Nikon, like all of these cameras that have better, you know, animal eye detect and things like that, and better dynamic range and better stabilization, you know, IBIS and all of that, better lens choices, yeah, do it. Get what serves you the best. There's so many great opportunities out here. And if you need less, you're lucky, because you could save a lot of money. You get something like a GH5 and spend $500, $450, and get something that's going to get you the same image quality as anybody who's doing things easier. It's really about usability, you know, and what gets you to the end. That's what really costs money, because the image quality is going to be pretty much the same no matter what you get. Yeah, maybe Blackmagic has better image quality in the dark, but at the end of the day, nobody cares if you tell a great story. And as long as it's not like horrible, but you know, if you watch an old film, you know, an old classic film from 1920, 1940, you don't care about the image quality. If you watch a film from the 60s, from the 50s, if it's a classic film, you ain't thinking about the image quality. I mean, you are thinking about the image quality because it's awesome. It will become your taste if you happen to love the story. That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, all of that. I think get the camera that you want, get the camera that you need, get the camera that you can afford, get the camera that serves your needs, that, you know, is good for your particular workflow, and stop time. It's a great gift to humanity. Perhaps the greatest gift.